My name's Fadan. I'm a family law solicitor practicing in Sydney, Australia, and this is a story about a case I had many years ago involving Sally and Peter. It's called The Getaway. Now, Sally had recently had a baby. The baby was 3 months old and she was still breastfeeding. Before she had the baby, she had her own place. She was set up, she had a job, she was doing very well for herself. But after, in the lateness of her pregnancy, when she was about 8 months pregnant, she resigned from her job and moved in with Peter. They'd never lived together before that. But once she moved in, she realised she'd made a big mistake because she was then financially dependent on Peter. She had the baby, a little boy called Tommy, and she was stuck at home all day with the baby, breastfeeding, as I said, and she had a bit of postnatal depression. Peter continued his party lifestyle, notwithstanding Sally had moved in with him. He continued to stay out all night, didn't help her with the baby, was a real asshole, and there was some DV involved. She also felt like she was financially controlled because she didn't have any money anymore. She didn't have a source of income. She relied on him to buy the groceries, the nappies, everything that she needed for the baby. She was solely reliant on Peter. And he used that to his advantage, making her do things for him that she really didn't want to do. So after being with him for 3 months, she decided, like living together for 4 months, she decided that she wanted out. When she was at church, she consulted with her friend and said, "Do you know any good family lawyers? Because I really need to get out of this relationship and I'm at a loss of what to do because I have no money, I have no resources, and all I've got is baby Tommy and my entire family's in Melbourne, so I have no family support." And she was really down. So this girl said, "I know a lawyer. I consulted a lawyer called Fadan back in the day, and she was great. See if she's still around. I think I have her mobile in my phone." I don't know how this client had my mobile. Sometimes, many years ago, I would give my mobile to clients. When we're going to meet at court or whatever, I would text them to say, this is where we're meeting, or I'm running late or something, so they would have my mobile. This is one of those instances. Normally, I don't give my personal mobile to the clients. Anyway, this particular client had my mobile, gave it to Sally, who then one day, I'm sitting pigging out on my lunch break, my mouth full of food, and my mobile rings with a number that's not in my phone, but I answer it. And she says, "You don't know me. My name is Sally. I was referred to you by Erica." And I'm like, "Oh, Erica, yeah, I remember her. She got a really good deal. She was a nice lady." She's like, yeah, I know her from church, and she said that you can help me. I've got no money to pay you, but this is my situation. And she tells me the story about Peter, the DV, that she just felt really hopeless and really stuck and just needed some advice. So, I was sort of swallowing my lunch break food and said, okay, let me get the facts. So I spent about half an hour with her on the phone, sort of assessing the situation so I could give her some pro bono advice. And what I ascertained was her entire family was in Melbourne. And although Peter was the one financially supporting her, she did have access to a car. The car that she'd had before, she still had the car, and it had a car seat in it. So she could run around to do errands and things in the car. So I said to her, "You have the keys to the car?" She's like, "Yes." I'm like, "Do you have money to put petrol in it?" And she's like, "Yes." I'm like, "Okay, fill the car up with petrol, put in that car everything from that apartment that you want, all the baby's things. Just keep in your mind, you're never getting back into that apartment. So take whatever the hell you want, anything sentimental in particular. We're going to do a getaway. You're going to drive to Melbourne to visit your family, contact your parents, make sure they're happy to have you. And if they are," and she's like, "Oh, can I do that?" I'm like, "Of course you can." "Can I take the baby?" "Of course you can." "Yeah, but it's his baby." "I know it's his baby. You're the primary carer. You're in danger. You take your baby, you get in the car, you don't say a goddamn word to him, and you drive to Melbourne. Have stops along the way, be safe. Make sure it's a long way. It's about, I think, a 9-hour drive. But we need to get you out, and your parents are willing to take you in. Then do it." And she's like, "Of course they'll take me in. I just didn't think it was an option that I could leave the state." "Of course you can. You're the mother. It's your baby. You can go visit your parents." So that's what we did. She packed up the car. I don't think she did it that day. We did a bit of a plan. She was going to do it the next day because it was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon and she's already, half the day was gone. But he would leave for work. Loser Peter would leave for work at about 9 o'clock. So she was going to bide her time. Wait for him to go, that is, go to work in the morning, act like everything's normal. As soon as he goes, pack up her little, it was a hatchback, pack up a little hatchback with all her shit from the apartment, leaving all the furniture behind, just taking clothes and shoes and things that she needed. And she drove to Melbourne to go and stay with her parents. Now, I told her to keep in touch with me and once she was there to ring me. She did do that. And then I referred her to legal aid to assist. And I said, if ever he comes back, because if she said she had a legal aid lawyer, I didn't think that he'd be scared. So I said, you throw my name out there. If ever he comes to you, you say, Fadan is on the case and this is my lawyer. Don't contact me, contact her. So about 3 months goes by and she sends me a text message on the mobile to say, I don't know if you remember me. This is Sally. I now live in Melbourne with baby Tommy, and things are going really well with my parents, and they've been fabulous. I'm even starting to now get back on my feet where I can enter the workforce because my mum's going to look after the baby. Peter's recently said that he wants to start spending time with Tommy. So he said that I can expect to hear from his solicitor. I've given him your details, as you said that I could. You may hear from him. So I was like, okay, sure, no problem. Now, as I said, I'd agreed to do the case pro bono, so I was happy to help her out. After a little while, maybe 4 to 6 weeks, I get a letter from Peter's solicitor saying he was actually on Peter's behalf and he wants to start a regime where he can start spending time with little Tommy, and he wants my client to fly to Sydney at his cost and he will spend time with the baby. Now, we're not flying to Sydney. She lives in Melbourne now. He wants to spend time with the baby. He's got to come to Melbourne and the time would be supervised at his cost. So I put in there all these conditions. We also think that he needs to do some courses to educate himself on family violence and the high conflict relationship. There's a lot of literature out there that says that young children who are vulnerable and have parents who are in high conflict will be, screwed up later in life if they are exposed to the parental conflict. Now, this was a high conflict case, and clearly they weren't talking anymore. They could not communicate about basic things, and she had no trust in him. These are not parties who were once married that lived together, had a very stable relationship. They did not. She didn't want him anywhere near that baby unless it was supervised. So, of course, I offered him supervised time. And she had not sought child support from him because she didn't want a goddamn cent. And her parents said, don't get any money off that man. We don't want him. And if you do start seeking money off him, he's more than likely to want a relationship with his son. But because now he's instigated the process to get time with Tommy, she said, I may as well ask for child support. So she did. Now, once he got the child support assessment, he had to pay her something like $200 a week. And he was really, really annoyed by that. So he then gets his solicitor to ring me off the record to say that he's really upset that he has to come to Melbourne and have supervised time and he doesn't want to do any of that. He's got a new life now. He's got a new woman now. So what he'd like to do is make a off-the-record offer that she can have baby Tommy. He will sign away his rights to baby Tommy if she signs away her rights to all child support. So basically, she's buying the child or he's buying the child? Whatever. She said, yeah, sure, I don't give a shit. I don't need his money. My parents are supporting me and I'm happy to be on my own 2 feet. And frankly, he hasn't got a relationship with his son anyway. So we drew up the paperwork to say that she's got sole parental responsibility. Tommy will live with her. He will have no access to his son unless she agrees, and that she then waived her right to future child support. I also put a clause in there to say that if ever those orders are set aside or varied, it opens up her right to then seek child support, because sometimes that happens, when the kid's 7 or whatever, dad comes out of the work and says, I want a relationship with my son, and she's forfeited child support until the kid's 18. So we put a little clause in there. Anyway, it all got resolved. He walked away from his child because, frankly, he didn't want to pay any child support. She was happy. She ended up repartnering. I haven't heard from her in several years, but from what I understand, she's living a very happy life now. She's remarried and little Tommy is doing well. So I guess the moral of the story is sometimes a good deed, and that is me helping out this woman pro bono, ended up with a pretty good outcome. Now, the baby didn't have a relationship with his dad, so that is quite sad. But as I said, the dad was prepared to give it away, give up his rights to have a relationship with his son because of the child support. So that's the end of the story.